Okay. Thank you very much for joining us today. Hi, my name is Chad McDaniel. I'm president and co-founder of Execs in the Know. And hey, I really appreciate your time and listenership. That is what makes, I think, our community so special. So again, thank you. We've got a great topic that's very timely, and I'm real excited to introduce you here shortly to a couple of our key guests. I know you're going to enjoy both Mike and Peter, and we're going to put them to task here, but I got a couple of things that I want to walk us through before we get started. So today's topic is going to be about what we said, 7 tips for optimizing call center automation. I hope by the end of the discussion, maybe we got 10 or 12 tips, but I know Mike and Peter are coming prepared to really give us some good case study and insights that I think will get us all creatively thinking. So welcome. All right, a couple of slides I just want to walk us through before we get started. We're going to do some introductions. We're going to have live Q&A at the end. What I'd ask is please put your questions in the Q&A or chat box there. As we get towards the end of the webinar, I will do my best to get your questions answered, or you can direct message me, Chad, and I'll be happy to get your questions out there for both Peter and Mike. Let's get best use of our time together, and let's learn together. It's not too late. I know a lot of people in our community know about our big event coming up, the Customer Response Summit in San Diego, Coronado, October 24th, 26th. An amazing 2.5 days of content and agenda and speakers in the brand community. So feel free to reach out to me, Chad at execsintheknow.com, and I'm happy to get more information over to you. For those that are first-time listeners to Execs in the Know, if this is your first time, welcome. We are a corporate CX sharing community. Mike, we're like your peer group, really a practitioner group that's really charged to elevate our industry and move the needle in the success of what we do. There's all sorts of information. If you go to execsintheknow.com, go to our knowledge center, you can see our content, our research, and all the publications and information that we put out there for our practitioner group. I can't say thank you enough to our corporate advisory board, not only these great leaders in our space, but really committed to elevating the success for us and for all of us as an industry. So a big shout out and thank you to our corporate advisory board guiding the conversations and topics like we're getting ready to have here today. So one thing, if you're not part of our online community called Know It All, I'll make sure I'll put a link in the chat box that you can join. It's for our corporate brands. It's private. And I tell you, you can connect with hundreds of others in your peer group. And the conversations are extremely rich and very insightful. The questions people are asking of each other are simply amazing. I would encourage you to join, if nothing else, watch the conversations taking place. All right, enough about Execs in the Know. I want to say, Mike Bowman, thank you for taking the time. I know how busy you've been. And Peter Isaacson, it's a real pleasure. You're the Chief Marketing Officer at Replicant. And Peter, the company's just continued to do amazing things. There's a lot of community members that use your product and service there. So thank you for your active voice and leadership for us. I'm not a fan of reading bios, so let's start with you doing some quick introductions, and then let's get into the topic here that our audience is excited to hear about.
Sure. Mike, do you want to go first, and then I'll take it from there?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for inviting me today. Mike Bowman, so I'm the Senior Director of Operations at ECSI. We are a global payments company headquartered in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And our organization provides outsourced business services for higher education, colleges, universities, as well as loan servicing.
Great. Thanks, Mike. And I really appreciate you joining us on this webinar. Folks, my name is Peter Isaacson. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Replicant, as Chad said. Thank you all for joining us. There's a description of Replicant on the right-hand side, but just to summarize, we are leaders in something called contact center automation. And what that means is we've cracked the code on how to have complex conversations between machines and humans. And we've directed that at customer service. So think of the 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour hold times that you've experienced with trying to change a reservation with a hotel or with an airline. So through automation, we've been able to actually scale and cut those wait times down to 0. We are omnichannel, but we started with a voice first solution because most customers, most of the time, still want to solve their customer service issues over the phone. What we're doing and working with companies like ECSI to do is taking a hybrid approach to contact centers where machines are taking the tier 1 support issues and handling them, and letting the agents actually focus on the more complex, the more high empathy, the more problem solving types of issues that come up. So,
well, I was going to say, Peter and Mike, perfect. Let's start to lean in. I know we've worked hard to put together, I think, some great suggestions and tips and learning here. So thank you again so much for your leadership and time, and let's lean in.
Perfect. All right. So a little bit of background, probably not something anyone on this call doesn't know, but the past 3 years have been tough for all of us, but certainly in the contact center space. Pandemic came, that had all sorts of challenges, which we all know about. And it seemed just as we were coming out of the pandemic, the Great Resignation was happening. And that really, really impacted contact centers because agents were essentially voting with their feet and deciding that that wasn't meaningful work for them anymore, and that they were going to search for something that really did kind of fit their quality of life and what they were looking for. And as we were kind of rebounding from that, now we're heading into a potential recession, right? So economic uncertainty, stock market is just one small indicator of things, and that's been incredibly volatile. But inflation is up, and there are really some challenging issues across the overall business climate that is really having an impact on how contact centers are managed. So, the nut of this then really is that there are, you can boil it down to 2 key challenges that contact centers are facing. First of all is agent capacity, workforce management issues. We hear over and over again from our customers and folks in the market that can't hire enough agents. When we do get agents, we can't retain them. We had actually one example of a major airline tell us that they had hired over a 2-month period 3,500 call center agents, and within 6 months, only 1,500 of them were left. So it's tough to hire. It's even tougher to retain agents. So that's been met though with the kind of twin challenge of just increasing frequency of volume spikes. Sometimes it's seasonality and it's predictable, but more frequently it's unpredictable call volume spikes. It's the pandemic was certainly one example of it, but increasing weather catastrophes, cybersecurity threats, challenges economically for financial markets. All of these are creating these volume spikes, which are creating major challenges for contact center leaders to actually just manage the business and keep the lights on. And while this is going on, the expectations of customer service continue to go up, right? The more and more folks just expect things to work, things to happen. They don't, we become more impatient really as a society, quite frankly. And that's challenging contact center leaders to keep that quality of customer service up or increasing when everything is, in terms of the headwinds that you're facing is pushing that quality of the customer experience down. So, not to paint too much of a doom and gloom, but those are the realities of where we're at right now as companies, as businesses, and as contact center leaders. So, I want to pause now, and we want to take our first of a couple of polls. The first one is, what is your imperative for contact center automation? What is your imperative for contact center automation? There are different areas of focus as you think about automation. Some companies are going to be focusing on improved CX. Some are better workforce management, business process automation or optimization, and then cost savings, or just innovation, right? They're looking to invest in innovation. So what is your imperative for contact center automation? Be interested to see the results on this. You know, as we wait for those results, then you know, as you look at this kind of improved CX, you know, the improved customer experience is something that's really important for a lot of companies. Let me just click on view results, and there we go. So we've got various kind of results here. We've got improved CX. 75% said that was the most important. We've got better workforce management as 50%, innovation 50%. No one actually said business process automation, and a little bit on cost savings. So improved customer experience is big, and that's I think really important, because a lot of folks look at automation as purely a cost savings mechanism, and it is really about both cost savings and an improved customer experience. Because that improved customer experience, if you're taking their calls immediately, if you're reducing wait times to 0, if you're answering their questions efficiently and precisely and allowing them to get on with the day, that is an improved customer experience. And that really is one of those primary goals of automation. So there are the results. I'm gonna move on. You know, I don't think I need to sell this crowd on just the payout for customer service. There are a few different data points here. Maybe the most important is the one on the left, quite honestly. And more customers that we talk to, more and more contact center leaders that we talk to, talk about the fact that in a tough economy, the most important thing that they can do is keep their own customers happy, right? Because the cost of acquiring new customers is high. And especially during economic uncertainty, it can be a real challenge to actually onboard and secure new customers. So the most important thing a lot of companies can do is keep your current customer base happy. So you see one of the data points, increasing customer retention rates by 5% can increase profits by 25% to almost 100%. Again, not a surprise, because customers are so important to the lifeblood of any business. And if you're not keeping them happy, if they're leaving, then you've got a leaky bucket that's just so difficult to fill. But you see other things on customer loyalty, you know, how 80% of customer interactions can be resolved by automation. More and more folks are looking to automation to actually improve that customer experience, to improve that CX, especially since so many, with the state of automation right now, so many challenges are able to be solved through automation. Now with that, we're going to move on, and we're going to take our second poll, and then I'm going to move it on to Mike. So next polling question: where are you in your contact center automation journey? All right, doing research. Are you actively exploring solutions? Have you implemented some automation? Or do you have a level of confidence in your contact center automation as it exists right now? So what stage are you at? Doing research, actively exploring solutions? You've implemented some automation already, or it's up and running and you think it's pretty solid? All right. Be interested to see this. All right. So it looks like we've got some people that are confident in contact center automation, or have implemented some automation. So it's kind of the kind of already experimenting with automation, already actually implementing automation, and even confident in it. So that's pretty interesting. That's actually consistent with some of the data that we've seen, that There's folks that are really kind of getting in, kicking the tires on automation. Very few people have said, I'm not interested in automation at all. Most of the companies that we talk to are leaning into automation and are trying to explore kind of what's right for their company. So pretty interesting results. And with that, I want to turn it over to Mike Bowman. I'm not going to introduce him because he's already introduced himself. But Mike, I really appreciate you jumping in here and joining us for this webinar.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I would say a couple of things. Listening to your metrics in your story, you did a really good job of explaining our situation 2 years ago of the pain we were going through from an operational perspective, from a service perspective, and just us looking out for solutions and what was next steps for us. So there was just all kinds of challenges, but I thought that was well stated to kind of set the stage of where we started. Just to give you a quick background of what ECSI does. Again, so today we're talking specifically about service conversational AI. And I'd like to just kind of set the stage of where we started 2.5 years ago and just walk through some of the things that we've learned along the way, some of the successes we had, some of the failures we had, and just what we've done to move forward to where we are today, what we expect from the future. But again, so at the core of our business is servicing higher education, colleges, universities, supporting their business services, supporting their staff. And there's just a lot of process involved in that. Today, when I say clients, I'm talking about higher education. When I'm referring to our callers, those are typically parents, students, graduates who are calling us for support on the university's behalf. But anyway, I just want to kind of walk through some of the key timeline that we went through. And even on this slide, we start around 2020, but I didn't even go back one step and say it was late 2019 when we realized climate was changing, sales were tough, operational expenses continued to climb, staffing was difficult, and this was pre-pandemic. We realized that in order to stay competitive and to meet our budgetary needs, we were going to have to find new tools and new ways to get the business done. And at that time, we just started reaching out to different groups. Peter's group, Replicate, was one of them, but also people out in the industry who had been using AI or were exploring AI, just to kind of get a feel of what was possible. So at that time, we made a decision. We were going to move forward. Again, pre-pandemic, we weren't ready to pull the trigger, so to speak, but we certainly were planning that this was going to be part of our future. The trigger point was the first point you see here about 2 years ago. Pandemic happened. All of a sudden, we get an order from the governor of our state that says you have to evacuate, cannot come into the office anymore. And it just really changed things overnight for us. I'm sure I have the same story as many of you, is that all of a sudden there's the chaos of getting everybody into their home offices, dealing with internet issues, working with our clients, just setting up a new platform in order to keep the business operating. And that's really what was the first domino, I'd say, to fall that just kind of drove us to make this decision. And again, to Peter's point, there was a lot of things that have happened. Just a shrinking labor pool, the Great Resignation, where people were poaching our staff or attempting to, economic crunch. I mean, that affects everybody's sales. Work from home challenges, all those things just added up, and we knew we needed a better way. So we pulled out this blueprint, and again, working with Replicant and others, decided, hey, it's time to move forward and start building this program. Now, if we fast forward a year to summer 2021, we had kind of gotten on a better path, but we still weren't out of the woods yet. Part of what we do is contact center services. We do that on behalf of ECSI. We also do that on behalf of our clients as far as outsourced contact center services go. At that time, we were really new to the AI space. We were just gotten started. And our average speed of answer for our contact center was over 35 minutes. That's just terrible, right? Who wants to wait 35 minutes, let alone any longer? Our abandon rate was very high. There was unrelenting, supply of work coming into the contact center. It's just very, very not good. If you fast forward a year, and we're going to get to how we got to that, the real result is we have many options in place now that are powered by artificial intelligence. Obviously, replicants played a part in that and designed a thinking machine for us. This past summer, we said, well, let's take a look at this summer versus last. What did we get for all this time and investment we've put into this? Our average speed of answer was 6 minutes and 4 seconds this past summer, so June through August. And that is year over year, right? But we had a 7% increase in our total volume. But at the same time, we were able to reduce our expenses, our overall expenses for technology and labor by 13.7%. That's after the investment we made into this technology. So it started paying for itself and it improved our service. And we just felt that we were in a much better spot. I will tell you, we've had some real good wins along the way. We're still on this journey. We're almost there. But along the way, as far as artificial intelligence with Replicant as our partner, I would say if we look at this past summer, 25% of our calls were completely contained by the thinking machine. What that means is that our bots were able to handle the caller's requests all on their own. They didn't need any human intervention. They didn't need to escalate. That took a significant chunk of calls out of the workflow and allowed us to have a little bit of breathing room for our representatives on the phone. The second one was because the way we designed this technology and the platform, the other calls that did escalate to an agent, a human person, a human agent, 65% of those calls were actually shorter than our typical handle time by about 90 seconds. So we had two wins here. We reduced the amount of actual calls going to our agents, which allowed us to have some breathing room, move a little bit faster. But because of what I would call a triage, where they're just completing functions that speed up a call, the call handle time was much shorter because people had less to do with those calls. They were able to focus on really the relationship building that needs to take place. And then finally, and we'll get into this here in just a bit, is the business intelligence that we've got through this program. It's probably like the second biggest thing is that the analytics that the thinking machine is able to give us allows us to immediately focus on where the obstacles are, roadblocks, opportunities, things that aren't working right. Where in the past we really had to do some digging, now we will immediately know where the problems are and can proactively get in there and fix it. Maybe it's a website issue, an IVR, whatever. If you forward to today, some of the bigger wins that we have is we don't use seasonal staff anymore. Now our business is very seasonal. Summers and winters are very busy for us as school sessions are starting. And we've often had to reach out and get part-time or seasonal help. We've built the program in such a manner that we now have no need to bring in seasonal staff. We can rely on just the full-time people that we have, which has been a substantial cost savings. And I'd also say some of the intangibles are that we've been able to take some time, now that we have a little bit more efficiency built into the system, is to upskill our current staff. And what I mean by that is with the thinking machine doing the tactical part of our work, we're able to focus on where the relationship part of our work. We're training people to be design user experience, to be client relationship professionals, to work with technology and the thinking machine. And we're upskilling our workforce, which has really been a driver of employee engagement. And then finally, we are so excited about the progress we've made so far. We've actually been one of the first groups to just kind of form a new department that's dedicated just to automation. This is just happening now. And we feel like this collaboration is going to take the entire company to a new level. Moving forward, a year from now, based on the success we have, we really believe that our entire workforce will be augmented by some form of AI, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit. So we've come a long way since the pandemic, still a lot of way to go, but it's been a really good learning experience. So, we're going to talk about 7 tips that we've learned along the way. But the first thing I'd like to talk about is assumptions if you are actively working on building more of a program or you're just getting started. The first assumption that I ask is, have you defined what success is for you? And what is it that you really want to achieve? This is very important because there's different aspects of artificial intelligence that will provide different types of results. And I'll give you an example. For some businesses, it might be, we want to raise quality. We want less mistakes in our process or on our phone calls. We're interested in reducing our costs. We're interested in picking up the speed. We want production to move faster. Or we want our employees to have more time on the phone to just build good relationships with our clients. All those things are possible, but it could be a different program that you're building individually or putting it all together. And if you're going to get off to a good start, I think it's very important to be very clear on what you're trying to achieve, which really leads me to the next part, the next assumption, which would be, does automation make sense for your specific business and your employees? Real quick, what I mean by that is we look at it as there's tactical work and there's relationship building work. In our world, our clients are the universities that are paying us to help operate the campus. The people that are calling us are their students, parents, graduates, and there's a big difference. With the clients, we're building a relationship. We want to have a trusting, professional rapport that leads to a better arrangement, more sales, making them set up for success. When somebody calls us in the contact center, that's typically, I want to make a payment. How do I make a payment? It's a very tactical kind of process. AI is a great tool for tactical processes, maybe not so much for relational processes. And the way I explain it to people, if you were getting online to order a pizza, that's very tactical. There's really not much relationship there. If you are selling financial services to a high net worth individual, that's going to take trust, that's going to take time, that's going to take a relationship building. So consider what it is that you're trying to accomplish and does it make sense for your business. The next assumption is just a cost analysis. I think this one's a no-brainer. We looked at our hard return of investment and our soft return on investment. And for us, what that means is dollars and cents. When it comes to the ROI, we're going to make a substantial investment in some cases into technology. What are we going to get in return? Is it reduced labor costs? Is it higher quality with less costly mistakes? How do we justify that cost? From a soft return on investment, it's really about, is it about your customer surveys? Do you want a better experience for your clients or for your employees? What is it that you're trying to, and maybe you want both, and that's fine, but make sure you've done an analysis that you understand what these costs are going to be and what you're going to get in return. And then I guess the final one I would say for assumptions is understand that there's different types of AI. So this was new to us. Today we're talking about conversational AI, but when you really study this, you're going to find out there's all kinds of different tools that are under the umbrella of artificial intelligence. So RPA, robotic process automation, natural language processing, machine learning, virtual assistants. There's all kinds of different tools under the umbrella of AI. Be careful that you know what they all do and what you can achieve with them. You may not need all of them. You only may need one. But know that before you start making an investment of time and money. All right, so we can move on to our tips. This one I put at the very top, and I'll explain why. Is, before you get started or as you're moving forward, do research. And I'll just be frank, one of the reasons I do this is that when you get out into the industry, there are going to be multiple players selling all kinds of different services and telling us all kinds of different things. This was certainly our case. If you have no background in it and you haven't used it before, it can be a little confusing because there's people making promises and talking about artificial intelligence that's just simply not true. So the first thing I tell people is just to educate yourself. Allow yourself to learn more from people who are actually using artificial intelligence in their operations. Ask questions. I'll tell you a couple of the things that we did was first hit up our network on LinkedIn. We talked to people who had said they're using it. We wanted to learn from their failures, their successes, get what the truth was about what could be done and what can't be done. I went to several college level classes just to learn more through MIT. They had a really great online course, 3 different classes that were with working professionals who would really just give it to you straight about what is possible and what's not. And it just gives you a really good background of understanding what is possible. So that's the first one, is just do your research, take some time to educate yourself, talk to people who are actually using it. It's going to save you a lot of time and hassle, and really give you a frame of reference of what's possible. I'm going to give you a quick example of why this is important. So at ECSI, we have, a couple thousand different universities, literally, that we do business for a variety of different things. Right now, AI and bots and the thinking machine, all these things are very, very interesting to the universities as they're facing the same challenges as anybody else. They're trying to manage their costs, manage enrollment, keep customer service high, and they are under a staffing crunch. So they're just like us, looking for technology solutions. Unfortunately, in some cases, we've seen where they have been approached by different companies and say, hey, I've got this artificial intelligence technology. It will interact with your students. It can do financial aid calculations. It can do this, it can do that. And it sounds really great. The issue is that when the university buys this technology, they're under the impression that it's really just a piece of technology you take out of a box, flip a switch, and it solves all your problems. That is far from the case. And they've spent the money to buy this technology, and now it's really not doing the job for them. What would have been better if they would have talked to somebody who was doing this successfully or had failed and understand what it really could do. In this case, it's going to take some design work to make this technology do what you want it to do, and save yourself a lot of time. Let's move on to the next one, or tip 2. And I saw in the poll that some people had already started, and there's a few who are looking to start. For me, there's so many possibilities that artificial intelligence can be used for in solving all kinds of problems, whether it's small or big. But for us, the first step was to just start small. And here's what I mean by that, because it's going to take some work and effort on your part, as well as whoever you're using to assist you, to put together a workable program. And you really want to get the best use of your time. What we would do is we would look at all the different processes that we have. And I'll just use, say, a phone call in the contact center as an example. If you think of a phone call you're taking from your client, there's probably things you want to have happen during that call. That's the process, from hello to goodbye, all the different things you might do. We would take that process, we call it a call, we'd take that process, break it down into its smallest parts. Step 1, step 2, step 3. These are the things that have to happen. And once you've broken it down into its smallest parts, you can soon recognize that there's potential to automate this step and that step and this step. And why this was important to us, this exercise really played a role in us getting started, was we didn't need to solve the entire problem or process all at once. We could start to see production gains and reducing costs by solving particular steps in a process with automation. So what I would encourage you to do is to just take everything that you're doing, look at the parts of the process that can be automated, and move forward on that in a small way to get your process started. A couple of the examples I love to share with people as far as getting started is one that we do is what we call authentication. So you are a caller, you reach out to our center. Like most people in the financial industry, we want to verify that it's actually you before we give any information. Well, we've designed our thinking machine to do that for us. The thinking machine is going to ask you some questions. It's going to integrate with our CRM, verify that you've answered correctly, and then authenticate you before moving on to the next steps. Maybe you need to have some directions or links or resources sent to you. Our thinking machine can do that. It notices in the process, I'm supposed to text this link or this direction to the caller, and it does that on our behalf. Another part was we used to be open just during normal business hours. Today we're 24/7, 365. We're never closed. Now, people may be at home asleep, but they are able, the bots, the thinking machine is able to be up all day. And during the night, we're taking all kinds of calls. So even look at the staffing and the shifts of your day, what parts could be automated. So I'll give you a really quick example of where we had some real success as far as breaking down the process and starting small. I mentioned authentication. So when we're authenticating somebody, we are collecting some data about them to share with a customer service rep if that call needs transferred. So in this case, we're just going to pretend that it does. The thinking machine realizes, hey, it's time to transfer this call. It is populating information into another screen that we call a screen pop, and it transfers this information with the call to the agent. What this screen pop shows, this miniature screen that comes up for the agent while the caller is transferred to them, shows all kinds of different things. It's going to show that, hey, I've already authenticated the caller. They are signed up for automatic billing. They have this need. This is why they're calling. All these things that the agent now has right in front of them. To give you a little bit of background, we take a little over 1 million calls a year, so about 1.2 million calls. This particular process of just informing the agent of what's about to happen and what has already been done saved us about 45 seconds a call. And when we add this all up, that 45 seconds on an individual call seems very small. Multiply that by 1.2 million calls. You got a lot of seconds that are adding up. That actually saved us over $100,000 right out of the gate when we started using this. That's 2 agents worth of work. If you add up all those seconds, 2+ agents worth of work over the course of a year. And again, seems like a small example, but this is what I mean by break down the process into small parts. And there's dollars in that process that you can save by automating. Let's go to tip number 3. As I said, get started now. And that may be easier to say than do, but let me explain what I mean. Is that Peter had mentioned about service expectations have continued to rise. When the pandemic started, there was almost a sympathy from our callers to our agents. I'm so sorry you have to work. I hope you're okay. Are you in a safe place? Those things, just the human factor of it, right? And that lasted for about 2 months. And then the tone changed from our callers. Why is it taking so long to get through? Why is there so few of you? What do I need to do to cut to the front of the line? So the expectations continue to rise, and they haven't gone down since then. And why this is important to me is that if you're in any kind of service organization, you're often compared to other companies. So in this example, I say you're compared to the big guys. The big guys have lots of resources to spend on service, and they have lots of technology that you might not have to. The thinking machine and artificial intelligence kind of levels the field. It's going to give you the tools to look like the big guys by moving that much faster. You know, in our case, we're now open 24/7. We used to only have regular business hours. Today, we look just like anyone else because we never stop. You can get a hold of us at any time. Artificial intelligence is evolving very quickly. I would tell you literally every month something new is happening. And the longer you wait to get involved, I think the easier it is for a competitor to just bypass you. So I suggest getting started now, educating yourself, and not waiting any longer. At least create a blueprint of what you would like to have done so that you're ready to move forward on that, and start small. Let's go to the 4th slide. Understanding your business. When you're designing your AI program, you're going to be working with designers and engineers, people who actually build this technology, make it work for you. They're really good at their jobs, but they don't know your business. When I started working with Replicant, I thought it's a great intellectual team, but we needed to educate them on the nuances of our particular industry and our business. And it was a great partnership, but it took two parts, right? Them and us educating each other. And I think this is where subject matter experts come in, that you need to identify who those people are in your business, give them some time to just relook at all of your operations and your documentation, and agree that, yes, if I was going to hand all this to a new person, this is exactly how the business should run. This is exactly what we should do. And really get into the weeds. Like, the robot is ruthlessly efficient and follows instructions. And you need to make sure that those instructions are right. So have your experts work with the engineers. You don't want to just hand something over to the engineers and say, hey, this is what I'd like to get done. Help educate them on specifically what you want to do. You know, in our case, we were very lucky to have several subject matter experts in our servicing organization. They had a real aptitude for technology, but also a real keen eye on detail and understanding our business. And we allowed them to leave their jobs and quasi work with Replicant as a partner to help build these work processes and the thinking machine's ability. And I will admit, I was questioned when I first said, hey, we're going to take our 2 or 3 best people out of the contact center and hand them over to Replicant for a couple months. That raised a lot of eyebrows. But I will tell you this, it really paid off, because now these engineers really understand at a deep level what we need to do and what we're trying to accomplish. And the net result is, you know, I have on here, we got 21 people's worth of work in return for those 2 guys. That really is true. That's actually an actual number. The amount of work that a thinking machine did this past summer in 3 months was the equivalent of 21 full-time people handling calls on our behalf. So a real win there. So for tip number 5, it's about your employees. This one's particularly important to me. I am all about employee engagement. I really want people to feel valued and appreciated and engaged at work. And I'm constantly asking, what can we do to make those things happen? The issue with automation is it is new to a lot of people. And the first thing I tell everybody is, while we may focus on cost and production and quality, speed, those things, don't forget your employees, because they're going to be looking at you wondering, what is this thing and what are we doing with artificial intelligence? I tell everybody to educate, not eliminate your workforce, right? What the artificial intelligence will do is obviously speed things up, reduce errors, give you great insight into your business, but it's also an employee engagement tool. And what I mean by that is, you think back what Peter said, there's a shortage of people. We don't have as many people working as we used to. The work hasn't gone down. In fact, it's gone up. Ours went up 7%. So more or less people are being asked to do more work. And over time, that weighs on you. So what we did is we just presented it as, here's our reality. We want to be able to provide tools that is going to make your life a little easier and allow you to spend more of that relationship building time with your callers. We included our employees in every step of the way of this process. We reached out to them for feedback. We included them on status updates. We made sure that the management knew what we were spending our time and money on. We asked a group of employees to kind of get together and watch the thinking machine work and critique it, let us know what they thought, act as if they were callers, and just really get them involved in the process. And that really eliminated any kind of apprehension that we had. In fact, I was pleasantly surprised to see in our group meetings, people were eager to get this thing launched. How much longer is it going to be? We want this to happen. And it's not just kind of baked into our culture that we have artificial intelligence, that we have this thinking machine, that it augments our work and allows us to do what we're a lot better at, rather than just the tactical stuff. So my only point here is to think about your employees as you're moving forward. At this time, you know, as always, they're our most valuable resource, particularly when it's difficult to just keep retention. Anyway, for tip number 6, so staffing appropriately I mentioned that working with the engineers. This is particularly important because you're going to find that if you go outside of your organization, at least this was the case for us, artificial intelligence is a new form of technology. Many people don't have these skills. And when you do find somebody who can do this for you, they're really expensive. One of the reasons why we work with a vendor versus working with independent contractors. What we did is we looked internally. Our first step was let's look internally and see, are there people with promise, people who have a technical aptitude, who know the system, who can help out in an analyst position and help move this forward. We looked, and I mentioned the two people we had. We actually have three today who were customer service advocates, just excellent at their jobs, really good at customer service, good with interpersonal skills, but also really good with technology and math and just more of an engineering kind of mindset. And we identified that and said, we have a special project we'd like you to take a shot at. They got real involved in this, very excited about it. And I'm really excited to tell you that after 1 year, we've promoted them all to analyst positions and now have three individuals who are just more than a subject matter expert, but are building technology that's going to move us forward. Again, just bringing this up because it's a new technology. Labor is hard to find outside of your organization a lot of times, particularly when you're a smaller company. And there might be untapped talent in your own group that you should look for and test and see if they can move forward. And then I guess my final tip, we'll just say, tip 7 is capitalize on both parts of the thinking machine of artificial intelligence. And here's what I mean by that. We're talking about production, cost reduction, improving quality, business analytics, all those things. That's the two sides. The brains of the artificial intelligence is that it moves really fast. It makes no mistakes when you've trained it right. You've programmed it appropriately. It answers all the calls all at once if it has to. It really has very few limits. So from a productivity and a quality and a cost perspective, that's all great. But don't forget the second side of this, and this one has been just as valuable for us, is what we call business intelligence. So one of the things we gained with this program was the analytics. The analytics have given us a much deeper look into our callers' behavior, into our business, into our processes than any of us have ever done individually before. And I'll give you a couple examples. Real quick, this is a real easy one, is that I like to say that the robot tells on itself. It tells on itself through reports that says, hey, this one stumped me, or I'm seeing a problem that hasn't been solved. You might want to take a look at this. And that's when our analysts step in and say, what's going on here? Not that long ago, before summer, we recognized that there was a problem on our website, and it was right in front of our faces. None of us even saw it. We are required through compliance regulatory means to keep our phone number on the top right-hand side of our website. And during the design of that, we decided to just put up our main loan servicing number, not thinking that other groups of clients and borrowers are going to call that number. Make a long story short, we went out about our business, and the robot told on itself. It said, hey, there's a problem going on here where the wrong sets of people are calling this number. You might want to take a look. Of course, I'm paraphrasing. So we ran the report and found out that in 1 month, 6,000 people had called the wrong number because we didn't put the right number up for those particular groups. So when they would call, they'd be in the wrong queue. It would cause confusion. They'd have to be transferred or explain themselves again. And obviously, there's a major cost to that. So one small example of lean on the analytics to give you insight into your business so that you can prevent big problems from happening. And one last thing I want to say here, as far as I call it a bonus tip, right, is that bots don't replace people. And I've been studying this a long time and I'm neck deep in artificial intelligence. I don't know that it would even happen in my lifetime. Bots have a real place in operations and from a tactical perspective in improving your bottom line. But don't forget that there's a relationship part with your employees and with your clients. I think what bots have done for us is to allow us to empower our people to do more of what they're good at. And that's building relationships, talking to our clients, interacting with our callers, and just making a very good human experience from that interaction. So just my last point when you're looking at your program.
Wow. Mike, tremendous job. Our community thanks you. And Peter, great job on that case study to both of you and some very relevant tips. Congratulations on the results. I was thinking, Mike, at the beginning there, was there a typo in 2021 of ASA of 35.0?
I wish.
And
I wish.
I'm like, okay. All right, we've got some questions. Audience, Mike did a tremendous job giving us some very practical and behind the scenes look of the tips that I'm glad we have this recorded. Let's get some questions. Go to the Q&A box there. Let's type in a few. Peter, I'm going to give Mike a break to get a sip of water here. Peter, I'm going to start with you.
Well deserved.
Yeah, absolutely. Peter, it was interesting. Mike was explaining his business is unique based on the nature of his business, and every brand has a bit of a uniqueness to what they do, no different than Mike. And from a replicant point of view, how do you go about working with and designing when there's such uniquenesses and differences and all sorts of brands? That's question one. And then question two, Peter, I was thinking that, automation is not necessarily for every single thing and every process. Like Mike said, in the relationship side, automation didn't make sense for us. So kind of a two-part question there. Peter, I'd love to hear your insights, how Replicant can work through some of those navigations.
Sure. Great question. So I'll answer the first part first. What's interesting is that, there are lots of different verticals that can benefit from vertical and industries that can benefit from automation, travel and hospitality, retail, financial services, healthcare. While those are very different and they have different kind of challenges, there are certain use cases that actually go horizontally across a lot of them. So a lot of these have appointment and scheduling issues for their customers. A lot of them have, billing and order issues. Where's my order types of issues. A lot of them have like kind of a keep me informed type of thing, like where they want to make sure that their customers are informed of a service issue that's going to be taken care of. And they just want to proactively kind of push communications out. So despite challenges being different, there are certain use cases, multiple use cases that really go across industries and across companies. What I think automation vendors like Replicant are doing right now is taking some of these use cases and creating pre-built components so that you can easily solve for them, so that you identify kind of the 70% that is the same within a use case from industry to industry and company to company, and you can use it to solve it. And then there's that 30% of customization that's unique to your specific business that you've got to build from scratch. But it can give you a head start and get you up and running and going with an automation solution actually within weeks. But it's those horizontal use cases that have some similarities across companies. Your second part was automation isn't for everyone. I 100% believe that. Replicant 100% believes that. If you are if you're a hospital dealing with oncology, and you're communicating very sensitive and very emotional types of data or communications, then you don't want to hear from a thinking machine on that. You want to talk and hear from a human being that can actually answer your questions and give you some level of comfort that a machine's not going to be able to do. When there's a high level of urgency, high level of empathy needed, those types of things, having automation is probably not the answer, quite frankly.
Some of this common sense stuff, right? And looking really across that journey in that piece. Peter, I have one more quick one for you, and then Mike, a couple is coming in for you directly. Peter, I was thinking, Mike had talked about, I can't remember the exact example, Mike, where you shaved off or you saved 6 seconds and 100,000 off the top on one particular example. It's always about getting it into financial speak for our CFOs as CX leaders. And again, as an organization, maybe there's certain assumptions that you can look and make and monitor and assess. But I guess that's kind of a discovery process with the brand throughout. And I think the more we can get into financial speak and assumptions, the better.
Yeah, I agree. That's one thing that we have noticed is that every company tends to kind of measure or create their own metrics, right? There are some commonalities across it, but everyone has a different kind of way. I would say what's most common across some of the touchstones are cost per contact, right? Like what is my cost per contact across everything if I roll everything together, not just for the calls that I'm servicing through automation, but for my entire contact center, and then balancing that with CSAT, with customer satisfaction, right? Because you can take a lot of cheese off the pizza and save a lot of money, but if your customer satisfaction plummets, that's not a great thing. So the key for a lot of companies is balancing that cost per contact and how do we manage that while still giving the customer a great experience in a way that actually keeps their satisfaction high. So
Peter, and again, if there's any white papers that you guys have or additional case studies like Mike, please pass them on to execs to know. We'd like to push them out to the larger community as we're trying to learn together. Great job. Okay, Mike, I hope you got your glass of water. Real quick, I've got a couple in here, and I'm going to go fairly fast because of time. One of our attendees of today's session wanted to say, first of all, thank you. They thought you did a great job, Mike. Did the implementation of the system, your system, create any new risks for the organization, i.e. the system did not correctly validate callers? I think that's a good question, and a few others have come in.
That's an excellent question because we're part of a much bigger organization I mentioned before, and we're also scrutinized quite heavily, being the industry that we're at, both financial and loan processing. We're scrutinized by all kinds of different agencies on the compliance and regulations that we must follow. But anyway, the quick answer is, first of all, I thought that both teams did a fantastic job of understanding what needed to happen and then designing that into the system. I guess, for lack of a better phrase, I call it fail-safe. If there was ever any question, if the bot didn't get exactly what we wanted it to get and understand, it escalated, went to a person out of the gate. We just didn't want to take any chances. And I'll just say it right with Peter looking at me. We trusted them that they're going to get it right, but we wanted to see it first before we went all in, right? And so we just made sure that there was that fail-safe. I would tell you that we've had no incidents.
Trust but verify.
Exactly. We've had no incidents, and I think that we are constantly scrutinizing the process to make sure that it is safe and following all the rules that needs to be there.
And Mike, last quick one, and I hear this a lot. Was there any friction internally when you moved to this path? I guess any resistance within call center agents and the contact center automation? I'm thinking from an agent perspective, probably not. They were probably very happy, but any other kind of friction points that maybe you had to kind of deal with and surprised you?
Well, two quick things. From an agent perspective, you have to understand the desperation at the time, right after the pandemic. We were ready for anything, any kind of help. It doesn't matter if it's human or bot, we'll take it, right? So that was an easy sell, quite honestly. But you mentioned friction points. I think we had a lot to learn, and learning to speak the language with the engineers, and also vice versa, them learning our industry. That takes a little bit of time. So you need to just have time set aside to educate each other on how the business works, what the jargon is, what this means, and how we're going to get done the goals that you need to accomplish.
Well, Mike, and Peter, I just want to say, stay close. You're doing great things in the industry, so stay close with us. We are a sharing community. We're all trying to elevate our industry as a collective group in a very unfiltered way that execs know. Our time has gone fast. Peter, I'm going to leave you with one last quick comment and advocacy here, and then we got to run. Peter, would there be any just quick advice or suggestion? I know it's not given it's the due diligence, but from the conversation Mike shared and just a number of things you heard today, would there just be something you want to quickly reinforce or suggest to us as leaders in the space?
Yeah, I think that certainly Mike did a great job of characterizing this and all of the tips that he gave. One thing that I think resonates a lot with how customers have had success and how folks have approached true automation, like really resolution-based automation, not deflection-based kind of automation, quite frankly, is the starting small. Like take a use case, take a pain point, take a high volume kind of or medium volume thing that's relatively direct and start there and start with that use case and then expand, because you learn a lot along the way about kind of how you want to engage with your agents, what types of customer issues automation can and should handle for your business, how that actually works with agents, as I said, and then you can expand to other use cases. I think that's a great recipe for success, and it just kind of echoes what Mike had said.
Well, let's come back. Let's keep the conversation going. Peter and Mike, great job. I got a lot of direct messages saying they really appreciated the detail and the discovery. A couple comments in the chat box about that too. So, hey, you guys stay well. Thank you. Best of luck, Mike, with everything, and congratulations on the continued journey of customer excellence. So on behalf of Execs in the Know, we don't have to go it alone. We have a great community, and you got leaders like Mike and Peter and many others. So stay well, and thank you so much for your listenership. It doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you.
Thank you.